Hey guys, it's Danae, as you guys know, and I'm back again with another episode of Millennial Voice, the show. As always, I am here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun every Sunday at 2 p.m. And this week I have here with me Andre Moses, the creator of Arc of Andre, fashion designer, visionary, and so many other things. But Andre, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into the interview.
Hi, hello, Danae. So glad to be here today. Thank you again for having me here. Super excited to talk about myself and my brand. But yes, my name is Andre. I am the designer and the one doing everything for my brand
Yeah.
called Arc of Andre.
Mhm.
I have been pretty much designing since college. However, I've been really going hard on my brand since probably last year.
Okay.
Yes. And my brand is really just about not just fashion, not just the design part, but it's about really trying to push narratives and push awareness of certain things. I've done collections based on mental illness, in our community. I've done collections based on disease in our community. I just did a collection recently, which we'll probably talk about, with Essence magazine, where the collection was about the sadly the very high mortality rates of Black women during childbirth. So my collections, there's always going to be a point to them. I'm always going to try to, make people aware, make people understand that like these are the issues and we need to address these issues. So that's the type of the designer I am. I'm
Yeah.
always inspired by those really deeper things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so cool that you're able to take your passion and other things that you're passionate about that are outside of fashion and kind of merge those two together to create something so meaningful. And I can only imagine how difficult that might be, right? You have this like theme in mind, and you want to make sure that you're seamlessly inserting that into your design. Can you take us through that process? Like, how does one take a concept such as mental health and then infuse that in a fashion line in a way that is conveyed effectively?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about research. It's also about trying to be respectful. So when I did the collection last summer, called PTSD, which was about trying to address the fact that Black women need to be allowed, to have mental health. They need to be allowed to show their emotions. They need to be no longer have the trope of the strong Black woman. So
Right.
for me, it was important that the collection was about respecting that and just trying to pull certain things that will remind you of that or will try to drive that point home. So for me, it's all about research. It's all about, I literally maybe take a week of just research and trying to figure out what connections can I draw so that people can be like, oh, okay, now I see what he's trying to do.
Wow.
So like for that collection, I ended up using the color of a Prozac pill,
Hmm.
for a few of the pieces in the collection, because I want people to say like, oh, this Prozac pill coloration is to address the fact that, it's okay to, take pharmaceuticals if you need to for your mental health. It's okay to see someone to prescribe that for you if you need that. It's okay for us as a community to get that if we need that in order to have better lives. So I really do try to research. I really do try to, again, be respectful of, who I am trying to make awareness for.
Right. I mean, I'm amazed by all of this in general and just how much thought you put into your pieces, going through the research and making sure that it's really sticking true to your message. Because this idea is so one of a kind, at least from my understanding, um, can you tell us a little bit about the root behind this? It sounds like Black women have kind of been maybe an inspiration for you or kind of the driving force behind a lot of your pieces. So can you just talk a little bit about the root of uh what is the word that I mean it's revolutionary. So can you just talk a little bit about the root of the word that I'm trying to say that I can't get to?
Yeah, so for me, I was raised primarily by my mom. My dad was in my life, definitely, but I lived with my mom pretty much all of my life.
Okay.
And, most of my family comprises very strong, very opinionated,
Mhm.
very kind Black women, of course. So for me, I just am very inspired by the women that I always say the women that have like raised me and befriended me and taught me, because I'm from Detroit. So most of the women who I was around in my life were Black women. And just like, having those women as, again, my mother, my grandmother, or having Black women as friends, or having Black women teach me. And also seeing these Black women who, again, like so strong, but you also do see their moments of darkness. You see their moments of them trying to prevent themselves from having a breakdown. And you see them really trying to not get to that point, but they want to. And for me, it's always important that in my design that I want to say like, amazing Black woman, it's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to be upset. It's okay for you to feel all this. It's okay for you to feel afraid.
Yeah.
Because again, I grew up with these women who didn't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah.
So for me to, see my mother, going through hard times, but then having to swallow it to be tough for me, I just want to be able to say, like, you don't have to do that. It is okay for you to live. It is okay for you to exist as you are. You don't need to stifle that down just to continue this idea of the strong Black woman. So it was really the women that raised me and taught me and have just been around me that I am just incredibly inspired by, and those are the women that I really want to help.
Okay, that's beautiful. So most designers, start out as children. They start out drawing figures, they start out drawing kind of clothes and stuff. You mentioned earlier that you didn't really start until college, and then you kind of hit the ground running within the past year. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the initial inspiration behind deciding to create clothes anyway, because it seems like the wheels were turning before this kind of took on any sort of life outside of you.
It's so interesting because I, as a kid, did not at all like fashion. I did not like putting on clothing. I cared more about my toys and my books.
Mhm.
I think I really do truly believe that it's in my blood. And I say that because my grandfather, I did a collection about him also last year. My grandfather, after he died, and mind you, my grandfather never talked, so I didn't know really anything about him. After he passed away, I found out that he wanted to be a fashion designer.
Oh wow.
And my family, and I never had, and that was in like middle school. At around that time, I kind of started to get into fashion a bit. I started to do like little random sketches. But when he passed away, my family had shown me these incredibly, like they were large, like incredibly beautiful fashion sketches that he had done that I never knew about. So,
Hmm.
my grandfather wanted to be a designer. He ended up not doing because he had to, make money. So he ended up working at a factory or something like that. But he wants to be a designer. And then my mother knows how to sew. She's a very talented seamstress.
Mhm.
And then my dad back in Detroit, he used to produce fashion shows that he would put on with like local designers.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it literally is in my blood. It just came
Yeah.
out of nowhere. I think it was bound to happen. I think it was very natural.
Oh,
Yeah, in middle school and then high school, I ended up really thinking about, because I've always been artistic. I've always been able to draw. I've always thought about being some type of artist. But yeah, middle school and high school is when it just randomly bloomed in me that, okay, I think I actually do like fashion. And here I am now, and a couple of collections later, and I still have the same passion that I had for it when I first started to, to get back into it. So yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so let's touch on your dad for a little bit. So you said that he used to put on fashion shows for people back in the day. And fast forward to today or last week, actually, where you had your fashion show with Essence, which congratulations. But I know that there was a lot that went behind that collection as well. So can you talk a little bit about that and also how you chose your models? I mean, I'm also interested to know. How does one go about creating a whole bunch of different outfits and looks for one fashion show?
Whew, it was a lot. So Essence contacted me at the end of July.
Mhm.
It was last week, so that literally left me pretty much a month. It left me a month to get everything together. And my work is very, I create looks. So one look might be a blazer, a skirt, and a top to go beneath it. So for me, I really wanted to continue that. I didn't, just the month is not a lot of time, but I also wanted to make sure that I was being true to my brand, which is, separates, and it's going to be complicated, complex dresses and a lot of detailing. So I wanted to still carry that same language.
Mhm.
So yeah, so for the show, they contacted me. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a scam at first. And then, I ended up going straight into sketch mode. The collection was inspired, I think I said it earlier, but the collection was inspired by wanting to bring awareness to the fact that Black women have a very high mortality rate during childbirth. So I've had that idea now for a while. So luckily, I had that in the back of my mind to start my collection from.
Yeah.
And then I just did research, for a couple of days. I went into sketch mode. I bought fabric, and I just was sewing literally every night, all night. for the last month.
Mm,
And when it came to choosing models, I am very much an advocate of, Black women again. So all my models are these beautiful Black women in all different tones, and they were just so beautiful. I had the help, though, for that of a casting agency through Essence Magazine called Vlad and Mia. Vlad and Mia were very, very helpful. They
yeah.
were, very kind and, very like, okay, Andre, here's what you want, here's what we have. We can give this to you. We understand the fact that you want a
Mm,
rainbow of beautiful skin tones for your collection. So yeah, and then the show was last week. I still can't believe it happened.
yeah.
I literally cried
Mm,
in the VIP section, tears of joy, because
yeah.
it's for the. I was told a lot after my show that people love the fact that my inspiration was so deep. I think a lot of designers, it's great for designers to say that, oh well, I took a vacation here and I was inspired by that. For me, it'll never be that. It'll always be, okay, here's the problem, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people after my show were like, Andre, this is amazing that you took such an important concept, you took such an important thing that needs to be discussed, and you actually made a collection out of it.
Yeah.
So it really, for me, validated that, okay, I'm on the right path, that people understand that I will be the designer who's gonna be in your face about something.
Yeah.
And I cried in the VIP section, so that was
Mm.
fun. But again, tears of joy, and I'm so glad that it happened. So glad.
Yeah, yeah. And so just to tie in what we're talking about to the things that are going on in pop culture right now, one person that's really been in the forefront lately has been Lil Nas X and his album and his use of pregnancy, and also just Drake as well, their use of pregnancy to kind of uh, push their albums. And so I am curious to know for you, as somebody who just did a line that was so heavily dedicated to Black women specifically who suffer high mortality rates in childbirth, do you think things like that are a bit irresponsible? I've been seeing people talk about it on Twitter, so I just wanted to ask you what you think.
Yeah, so I understand, especially with Little Nas X, also being a Black queer man myself, I understand that Little Nas, that for him, the fact that the controversy, I think that it almost fuels Little Nas. I
Mhm.
think the fact that, he's trying to get a rise out of people so that they can look at it in the face. I
Yeah.
think it's really kind of it's a definitely a tactic that may not be for everyone. I don't think it's a tactic that I would personally use for my brand.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I just think that there are some people who take controversy and then they'll put it in your face just so that you're forced to talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, Again, as a Black queer man, I totally see that Little Nas is definitely trying to change the narrative about what it means to be a Black queer hip hop artist and what it means to be a successful Black queer hip hop artist.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the method I would use, but we're talking about him now, so it's
Right.
working.
Yeah, working, something's working. Yeah, and like I said, the reason that I wanted to talk to you about this, um, again, I just thought about it when you brought up, the impetus behind your show. But I had seen people talking about it on Twitter and on both sides. And I think for me, I think that it works both ways. I think it's beautiful to have this Black queer man who's really breaking boundaries and breaking down walls and really like changing the way that we view Black men in hip hop. And so because of that, I love what he stands for, and he's done so many amazing things. Um, and so I'm a huge supporter. But again, for me, just knowing that the mortality rate again for Black women in childbirth is so high. The contraction video, the one where he was having the contractions and stuff, is the one that I was really like, okay, like there's some really like deep issues going on right now. So I would personally love to see him kind of talk about that a little bit and maybe see if there is any correlation, because you never know with him. Like a lot of the things that he does are really tied to other things. So I would love to see, him talk about that, or even people who are in that space in general, really making that a conversation, because like you said, a lot of people aren't really having it. And that's what makes you stand out so much to me and also to the other people who are at your show, is because you're really tackling these issues um, very front facing and unapologetically, and I can say that I really appreciated it, and I know a lot of other people definitely do as well. But so just to get back on track a little bit, you've been a creative for such a long time, and I know I shared with you that this week has been really difficult for me in terms of just creating and existing in general. And so I know last year you had a really unfortunate event that really kind of changed your life. And so I was wondering if that's something that you would be interested in talking about. And also, um, behind that, the inspiration that's kept you moving forward, even though it seemed that there might have been no way out at that time.
Yeah, so in January, right before my birthday, sadly, a fire broke out in my apartment. And at the time, I had all my pieces that I had. So by then, I had done two collections. So I had probably 30 pieces that I had made myself.
Mhm.
And they were lost in the fire, my sewing machine, my dress form, and not even that, like literally everything I owned was destroyed. They still, no one knows to this day what happened.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, everything I own got destroyed. And even, talking about it now, it's like, I mean, as you see, first spoke of my designs being destroyed because that's what I cared about the most.
Yeah.
For me, it was like I can replace my own clothing that I wear, but to have to go back and try and resew all that hard work that I've done, that really hurt me the most.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was like, okay, should I just give up? Like, is this some type of divine sign that I need to just pack it up? But then I've always been the type who, no matter what happens, I try to have some type of little sliver of hope. And I also don't have a plan B. I've always said that a plan B makes you not focus so much on the plan A. So
Yes.
I was like, okay, I can't leave New York. I can't give up my dream to be a designer. So yeah, I ended up, staying here. Luckily, I ended up setting up a GoFundMe, and people were way too kind, is all I can say. Way too kind. And I was able to afford my apartment now. I'm able to stay here now because of the really amazing donations of people. And yeah, and I ended up using the fire as inspiration for a collection. And for me, it's like, I've always said that, okay, I'm inspired by Black women and what they go through. Let me also put a mirror on myself and talk about what I go through.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the fire, and I literally made a collection, inspired by my apartment building that burned down, inspired by the smoke of the fire, because I was there. I literally sat there and watched my building burn down the entire time. So
Mhm.
just those images that were ingrained into my memory, I use those for the collection. So yeah, I always, and I also think too that the collection or the fire was a bit of a rebirth for me.
Mm.
Um, so many great things have happened since then. And, I feel like in a way, if the fire did not happen, I don't think I would even have probably done. I feel like, because the fire, certain dominoes fell a certain way.
Mm.
And I think that without the fire, where I am now would probably not be,
Wow.
without the fire. So in a way, I'm not thankful for the fire, but I am glad that, like a phoenix, I
Yeah.
rose out of ashes, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. So, how important do you think it is for creatives? Because regardless of whether it's something as big as a fire or something that's not necessarily as grandiose, how important is it for creators to be able to see and continue to look towards the future or have that tiny sliver of hope when things go wrong? Because inevitably something uh, does usually happen and not go the way that you want it to.
I say again, just make it your plan A. I think that we have become kind of trained to always have backup options. And I think those backup options, once we have those, and we feel safe to say, oh, I can just give up on this and turn to plan B through F. So for me, it's like, okay, I just want to have this one plan, and I want to put my full self into this one plan so that in these moments of darkness, I can at least say, okay, this happened, but I need to still press on because I don't have any other option to press on. So I think that for creatives, like really make it your passion. If
Right.
you have any ounce that this is not what you want to do, maybe it's not best for you. Like maybe, in those moments where you give up, you're gonna probably give up. So I think that whatever your pursuit is, just make sure that you would die for it almost, because that means that you will keep going no matter what. I always think about, I'm not sure if it's true, but I feel like I read or saw somewhere that there was a point where Jay-Z was selling like CDs out of the back of his trunk.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And
Yeah.
now to think about where Jay-Z is now, like you would never connect those dots, but
Right.
we all have to go through some real bad times to get where
Mm,
Jay-Z is at, for example. So, and again, for him, the music was probably, his only passion. The music was like what he clearly would die for. So
yeah. Yeah.
I say just, keep on that road, really make sure you know what your passion is, because that'll help you get through those really tough
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So January we have a fire. In September we have a fashion week show.
Mhm.
Take me through that time period in between January and September.
Yeah, so it was a lot of after, I was able to luckily get a lot of help, again, through GoFundMe and through donations. It was me trying to find an apartment. And then I found the apartment and I had this moment of, you know, I could have died. Like if I was there, I probably could have died in fire. So for me, it was like, okay, this is what my life is now. What do I really want out of my life?
Mhm.
So at the time I was working a 9 to 5. I didn't really have time to work on my brand.
Yeah.
So the fire happened, and I was like, okay, I really want to prioritize. I really want to think about, okay, what is it that I want out of my life? So the fire happened, and then I ended up realizing that, okay, my brand is what I really want. I don't want to give my all to a 9 to 5 and come home and not be able to work on my own stuff. So I left my job in April
Mm.
and ended up going hard on my collections. That's when I did the collection about the fire.
Okay.
And then after that, I ended up sewing all summer, just random pieces.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then Essence Magazine contacted me in July. So again, I don't think that I would have left my job if the fire had not happened.
Mm.
And also, I would have probably not have had time to work on the Essence show if I was still working.
Wow.
That makes sense. So that's why I said I feel like the fire
I'm like,
had to happen
yeah,
because certain dominoes fell in a way so
yeah,
that I would then be like, okay, I don't want to work. Oh, now I have time to work on Essence Magazine's fashion show.
right.
So, I think again, a lot of amazing things ended up, I think, happening because I went through that experience with the fire.
Yeah, yeah, wow. I mean, well, I'm thankful that you're still here as well, and that we're able to have this conversation. And I've been able to watch you, over the past year and just see how you've continued to move, and it's really inspirational. And just hearing like you talk about things, I'm like, wow, like I really needed to hear this. So I know a lot of other people needed to hear it as well. And I think often there's this sort of perception about designers. Um, that I don't feel like you fall into. And maybe, the very general idea of what a designer is just not really what it is. But I haven't had the chance to talk to too many designers. So I'm really happy that you're amongst one of the first that I've had the chance to talk to. And also, I modeled for Andre as well, guys, and I can really speak to the artistry of his work and how much effort and energy and attention he really puts into his collections, but also his shoots. And so one of the things too that I noticed that I wanted to touch on, just speaking to your craftsmanship in general, is that for some of the pieces you like actually like hand sewn some of the emblems on, or not emblems, but the beads or
Like chains,
whatever.
like in the dress that you wore, it was chains. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that? And also, like, as a designer, would you say that the difference really does lie in the details, as people say?
I think so. I think it brings a little bit more love into my pieces that I'm actually the one making it.
Mhm.
I'm still trying to get to the point where I can have a manufacturer and go that route because it is stressful making my own stuff.
Yeah,
But I think it also does bring a bit more attention to detail when it's literally me at my sewing machine or me like hunched over with my little hand sewing needles, sewing a million chains or a million little charms to a piece.
yeah,
So yeah, I do think that detail is important. I think that if you show any type of complex detail in your work, I just think that you care more about it. It just shows
yeah,
that you're really trying to push it. You're really trying to say, okay, this is important because I sat here for 3 hours and
right.
hand sewn myself. So yeah, I've again, I really do think that because it's me putting my sweat, tears into it literally sometimes, that makes it such that much more important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you started in college,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You got a degree.
Yep.
Has your goal changed since then?
Oh, yes. I'm from Michigan and I went to school in Michigan. I did not go to a fashion school. I went to a regular university that had a random fashion program that wasn't even, when you think of a fashion program, you think of a Parsons or a FITM where it's all fashion and it's all design. My program was kind of all over the place where I learned a bit about construction. I learned a bit about retail math. I learned a bit about textile science. So I didn't really actually I don't actually have like a fashion design degree. A lot of what I've had to do is self-taught really. But anyway, yeah, so I'm from Michigan and, I ended up working in retail right after college. And my goal and my aesthetic, I could, maybe show some images from my college days, but it looks nothing like my stuff
Yeah.
now. My aesthetic was I worked at Macy's, for example, so my aesthetic was very much so like department store, very easy, a little too easy for what I'm doing now. But yeah, like I definitely do see a huge change from my time in Michigan to where I am now. When I moved to New York, that aesthetic was still kind of there, but being here and being able to go to museums, being able to go to, a Bergdorf Goodman, and just like walking around, seeing all the amazingly stylish people walking around here, it really inspired me. And then for me, I'll always say, I ended up getting really into Phoebe Philo of Old Celine, that I will like die on a hill and say that she's one of the best designers ever. I'm so mad that she left Celine, but anyway, getting more into Phoebe Philo and just like really studying what she's done for women. I think that her aesthetic and her inspiration and the clothing that she created for these type of woman I want to dress, who's intelligent, she's thoughtful, she's considerate. She knows, like, she has a place in this world. She knows that she has something to say in this world. So just a lot of research of Phoebe Philo's Old Celine. And again, just being here really shifted my aesthetic and shifted my inspiration to
Yeah.
where it is.
Okay. So your clothing is described as ready to wear. What exactly does that mean?
So ready to wear is essentially anything that doesn't it's not really red carpet appropriate.
Okay.
And my customer, as you probably can tell, like, she probably won't be on the red carpet, but she will be at a podium protesting something.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, my ready to wear girl is just somebody who it's either at work or she's like stomping down the street, down her neighborhood street trying to protest something with signs, or she's at, the local town hall trying to fight for something, or she's, I don't know, being interviewed by someone and, talking about, disparities in her community. So
Mhm.
what it means for me.
Okay. And I love how whenever you said something, it always had something behind it that was really meaningful. Like she's protesting, she's interviewing about this cause that she cares about. So I feel like aside from the physical details, I think that the details that you have sort of going on in your brain as you're creating these pieces, I think that they're conveyed really well. But also, some of your pieces have been on the cover of magazines, and you've been doing polls for photo shoots and celebrities and stuff like that. What does that feel like for you as somebody who, the goal has really changed since you've moved out here?
It's so incredibly surreal
Mm.
to be from Michigan and now be here and then, to get a request to pull for a national published magazine is so surreal. It's still so weird. It's still so weird to my family, bless them. My family will talk about the magazines I've been in whenever they get a chance. And I'm like, it's not that important. But then I realize that yes, it is that
It
important.
is. It is that
Because
important.
yes, because it's like, I've a lot of people don't get this chance. And
Yeah.
to still be able to get requests and to still, be like, hey Andre, I have a celeb I want to wear your pieces. It's so and that for me, it just helps to further push the goal because that means I'm getting, known enough so that okay, maybe one day I can finally get it to like an AOC Maybe
Yeah.
Michelle Obama might wear it one day. Who
Yeah.
knows? So
Oh,
so for me, it's just like it's really important pivotal steps to get it to those people who I could see, in the Senate
yeah.
fighting things. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So aside from you, what Black designers do you think that we should be looking out for that might have really struck you during Fashion Week?
Oh, there's so many.
Got to give us like
Definitely.
three.
Okay, three. I love what Telfar has done.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Telfar has penetrated into just American life. The
Mm,
fact that, and it's funny because when I first moved here, I interned at a showroom that held Telfar stuff.
oh wow.
And Telfar's been around for years. Like a lot of people don't realize Telfar has been the same for years.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of now where his bag has led him to a place of being extremely popular.
Yeah.
So definitely seeing Telfar, that is the goal almost to see someone like Telfar who has been busting his butt off for so many years. And now, to see his like the Brooklyn Birkin. Like that's so crazy that you have a bag that's a staple and that literally will sell out whenever you talk about it,
In
post it
a minute.
within a minute. And that's so crazy. And for a lot of Black designers, we don't have that.
Mhm.
So really amazing. I also love Charles Harbison. Just as a person, he's amazing, but then also his pieces are just so thoughtful and beautiful and delicate and just amazing. I love what he does for women. I love how he makes women look at his pieces.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would probably say, I'm trying to think like a Laquan Smith. I
Okay.
think that Laquan, just his notoriety and just the fact that so many people go to Laquan for his amazing pieces, and we're such different designers. Laquan is probably not designing ready to wear. He probably is dressing a woman on the red carpet.
Yeah.
And that's amazing that we have that option with the Black designer. Again, this is something that is so new to people. The fact that there is a brand being ran by a Black designer that you can go to for a red carpet look. Like we don't have to rely on these tried and true non-Black brands to
Hmm.
dress us for the red carpet anymore. So
Yeah.
that's really amazing.
Right. I mean, that's so beautiful. And I love that you were able to give us like three different people who do three different things.
Different.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because um, you're right. Like this is very new. This is a very new phenomenon, making sure that we do know the names of these Black designers, or they are getting the chance. And we're seeing like a shift. I've noticed in celebrities who are deciding to Black celebrities who are deciding to wear Black designers and things like that. So that's amazing. And I have a Telfar bag, and I've been trying to get another one for months, and I can't get it.
You've
But
seen the duffel bag?
yes, oh my God. But my
Yeah.
mom was telling me, because she's been the one who's actually been up and on the site at 9 a.m. to get a bag for me. I haven't physically been the one
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
um, but she told me that you have to watch Telfar TV or something.
Mhm.
So I mean, he has a channel now, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely see why that's somebody you would be inspired by. But okay, so my next question for you is the Met Gala. So everything's kind of happened back to back to back. Like it was Fashion Week, it was the Met Gala, it was the VMAs. But I wanted to talk about what Met Gala looks were you really interested and impressed by this year?
So I will say that, because the theme was about American fashion,
Mhm.
I would have I was kind of critical of the Met Gala this year. I would have loved to have seen more Black American designers.
Mhm.
So that's why I want to give a shout out to Lewis Hamilton, I believe is his name, who is the race car. I'm probably gonna butcher how to say this, but he's a race car. It sounds so immature, like a race car driver.
Mhm.
And he ended up bringing all Black American
I
designers.
saw that and got a table.
Yep. And I just really appreciate the fact that because it was kind of odd how there weren't a lot of Black American designers represented there.
Mhm.
When I thought this would have been a really good
Great
opportunity to
things.
have them there,
Yeah.
especially because the Met Gala gets all the coverage,
Yeah.
it's more than some award shows. So I thought it was a missed opportunity that, we didn't really see a lot of people wearing Black American designers. So I found it incredibly beautiful, incredibly thoughtful that he was able to say, okay, I'm going to give you all, I'm going to pay for your table. I'm going to give you all the spotlight that you all deserve, because American fashion is a big part of it is Black designers. You know, I really would have loved to see somebody in some like really archival, like Dapper Dan.
Mm,
I could see Rihanna roll up in some like 1990s Dapper Dan or something.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
was just interesting that, you know, that wasn't really what we saw,
yeah,
which was unfortunate.
yeah.
But I really do give 1,000% kudos to him, because he was like, oh no, I'm gonna give you guys the spotlight that
Your
you want.
space. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. But okay, so my last question to you is going to be about Arc of Andre as a whole. So that's such a great name for a brand. And so yeah, you are so welcome. I mean, it's so powerful. It's so encompassing of all the things that we've talked about today. Like I really feel like it's perfect. How difficult is it to come up with a name of a brand? Because you're really taking so many different ideas and kind of saying, I'm going to call you this one thing, and this one thing has to continue to stick. How difficult is that process as a designer?
So for me, I honestly hate my name. I
Really?
hate, so my last name is Moses, so it's Andre Moses. And I don't know why. People all my life have told me that I have a really powerful name, and I
Yeah,
don't know
you
why.
have that's an
And
amazing name.
I know, I don't know why I cannot live in my name, but people have told me throughout my life that I have a really great, famous sounding name.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just could not picture it as the name of my brand. So I don't know where I got Arc of Andre from. I'm glad I did, because I like the fact that, you know, my arc is my brand. So like
Mm.
that's what that's my journey, it's my brand. But for me, like what you have modeled for the What Is Your Art campaign, I want to also talk about the arc of people like you, or like people who are out protesting, or people who are, at town hall trying to get something changed in their neighborhood. So my brand is about not just, again, my arc is the clothing and it's the brand itself, but my brand is about, okay, what is your art? Like, what is my customer's art? What is it that they are going to contribute to the world to make a better place? So again, I can't remember where I got Arc of Andre from, but
It's so perfect though.
yeah, I'm glad that, because yeah, I think it totally feeds into my story. It feeds into the person I want to dress. It feeds into, okay, what is your story? Why
Yeah.
are you here? Why are you trying to take up space? Why are you trying to make things better? What
Yeah.
is your
But I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the fact that you didn't really care for Andre Moses because
oh yeah.
when you first emailed me and I saw that that was like the name, I thought that that was like a name that you had given yourself because of how well it fit together. Like I was like, okay, maybe Moses is his middle name, or maybe this is just kind of something that he's playing on, but that's your first and last name.
I remember I spent maybe 3 or 4 days playing with Andre Moses and playing with logo ideas, and I just could not stand behind it. Maybe one day it'll change.
Yeah.
Because, again, people have always said that I have a beautiful name. Do you like your name? Like, do you feel like,
Danae Reed. Yeah, I absolutely love
uh,
Danae Reed. I'm like
yeah, I feel like
obsessed.
I love your name. Just, to me, this, that I love you, and that I feel
Love you
like
too.
you're
Oh.
just gonna be so friggin' successful. But your name literally has a like greatness to it. And I wish I could feel that way about my name, but
Well, I mean, I feel that way about your name, and it sounds like a whole bunch of other people do. So it sounds like you're the only one who needs to get on board. But maybe in the, you know what, maybe in a couple years, maybe in a couple
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Until
thank
then, I think Arc of Andre is perfect.
you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, Andre, that was the last question I had for you. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I might not have touched on?
No, this was amazing. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I think that what's hard about my brand is that I do have to explain things. A lot of people, until I say, oh, that's inspired by, they're like, oh, now I see it. So
Mm,
it's nice I was able to get a chance to say, okay, this is what inspired this, because now people could be like, oh, now I
yeah,
understand why it's that color. I understand why you had sewn this to that. So
right.
thank you for the opportunity.
So welcome. And I mean, like, I see your pieces and I don't just see, like, I see art. I see the artistry behind it. So I can't wait to one day maybe see it like in some sort of museum or something. And then you can have that those little captions where like you describe it, and like, eventually you'll get to the point where you don't have to describe it because people are just gonna know. So thank you so much for being so candid and really just, talking to me about your experience, about what you've been through, what you're, where you're going, your hopes, and all that stuff. And I can't wait to just continue to see you flourish and just be out here being great and living life. And Essence Fashion Show is just the first of many. So definitely keep us updated on what you have to come, because I would love to share that with my viewers.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. You're welcome. And so, before we go, as always, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of A Millennial Voice, the show. Again, I'm here with Andre Moses, Arc of Andre. Can you please just drop your socials before we go?
Yeah, so it's just Arc of Andre. So at ARCOFANDRE.
And your
Please follow along my journey. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and your website is the same, correct?
Yeah, so just www.arcofandre.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Andre, like I said, thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of my show. As always, we're here every Sunday at 2 p.m. with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun on Facebook. And if you're interested in reading any of my thoughts, you guys can check me out at www.philissun.com, or you can get the whole paper for only $40 a year. Again, Andre, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you soon.